Thanks for joining us. We're here today with our good friend Naomi Krueger. Naomi is a writer and editor from Minnesota. She works in her dream job as a senior acquisition editor for Beaming Books, a children's book publishing company in Minneapolis. She gets to work with amazing authors and illustrators to make picture books and other fun and meaningful books for children. She lives just outside of St. Paul with her husband and two little boys. In the cracks of time between parenting and working full time, she enjoys gardening, reading poetry, and learning new hobbies. And I have to say that Naomi has been a featured speaker with the Writing for Your Life business that I ran for several years, and really have enjoyed collaborating with her, and really have a deep appreciation for all of her great work. You can learn more about all she does at naomikrueger.com. So Naomi, hi. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, congratulations again on all your wonderful work, and may it continue for a great deal of time. So to get started, what else would you like people to know about you besides what I kind of briefly touched on there?
Yeah, so I work at Beaming Books, as you mentioned, as senior acquisitions editor, and we are a progressive Christian children's book imprint based in Minneapolis. Our publishing mission is publishing books that help kids thrive emotionally, socially, and spiritually. And so we publish books on those basic three categories, but they go kind of broad and just on the idea of how do we help a child navigate the world in all its complexities. And so it's something I'm really passionate about personally. It's really exciting to be able to do that as a job. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else about me. Kind of covered it. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. Yeah. And
how do you survive? How do you survive Minnesota winters?
Well, one day at a time. Yeah. Well, we say we winter hard and we summer harder. Because summer, is short, and so you kind of pack it in as much as you can into those nice warm months, and then you get tired, and then by the time winter comes, you're ready to hibernate for a while.
So the main thing we're here to talk about today is a new program called Raising Kids for Good, a soon-to-be nonprofit seeking to provide positive, inclusive spiritual family resources for families and churches in an attractive, compassionate, welcoming, and sustainable environment. RKFG, Raising Kids for Good for short, consists of a large ecumenical group of volunteers that includes pastors, authors, mental health professionals, professors, parents, attorneys, and other interested individuals working together to raise awareness of the many excellent existing resources that can be very helpful for caregivers and church leaders, if only they could find them. What a concept. We have not yet formally announced Raising Kids for Good, but many of us have been working together on this project for several months now, and Naomi has been part of that. So, Naomi, can you tell folks why you got involved with Raising Kids for Good, why you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's hard to find resources because publishing is decentralized, which is a good thing. I mean, there's multiple publishers, and most people think about individual authors or individual titles that they like. You don't really think about like the publisher that is, there's not necessarily a go-to publisher that you're like, oh, I trust this one and only this one. And so people are often asking their friends for recommendations, or seeking things out on the internet. And so I'm excited that there's going to be a more centralized place for progressive Christian people to find the resources that they're looking for their families, for their churches. And yeah, I mean, there's a need for it for sure. People like me are, as a parent, I am often trying to figure out how to raise my kids in the faith. And even as somebody who works in Christian publishing, who was raised Christian, who has taught Sunday school, I still feel sometimes out of my depth in raising my kids this way. So I too need this, and I'm really excited about it.
There's so many people have said the same thing. So, I'm very excited about the project, and I'm very clear that there's a need for it. So how have you personally been involved in the project?
Yeah, I have been consulting as an expert in children's book publishing. So I have been providing some expertise, some advice, some of my opinions and thoughts about children's books in particular for the Children's Book Resource Committee, helping the team think through a little bit about how do we come up with some criteria for what makes a quality book that we want to recommend. What are some of the categories that we want to be promoting, and suggesting some titles that I'm aware of as well. But mostly just sharing what I know about the industry and personally as my experience as a parent as well. So it's kind of both. I am representing Beaming Books, but I'm also representing myself.
Well, I know that this is very important input for that team. So, I really appreciate your involvement in that. So what would you say your hopes for the program are, as it launches and grows?
Yeah, well, I really hope people find it and are excited about it and start telling people about it. And it becomes the place that people go to when they're wondering, oh, I need a book on this topic, or I wonder what, I would love it if people said, oh, I wonder what Raising Kids for Good would recommend, and they would go there. Eventually, I think it would be great if people, leadership on this, in this organization, were sought out speakers and leaders for the progressive Christian community. There's not, where do you go to for comment on a particular political event or some kind of current event in the church? I think it would be great if it became influential in that way as well. I don't know if that's a goal, but I just think personally there's a need for that. There's a need for more voices that are full of grace and love and compassion and welcome.
No question about that. And I think that's a great thought for us to pursue once we get launched. So what advice do you have for all of us that are working on this project? What would you like to see?
In terms of putting together the resources, or?
Yeah, or just, where do you think we should take this?
Yeah. I think I just hope it is dynamic and fresh, and that once these resources are, I know the plan right now is to launch a few great recommendations, and then I hope those keep getting updated and added to and built so that we have this wonderful online library of resources people can reference and seek out, because every year there's more and more books being published, even if it is not, within the Christian world, the number of books may be small compared to the general market. There's still more coming out and you want to hear about them. And so I think this will be a great way for people to find out what's new.
And I think, people need to have access and become aware of books that are now overtly Christian too, that are, about parenting or other important topics.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because we are holistic people. We don't only, there's all kinds of things that we need to inform our lives and that we seek out. How do I parent my kid in an age when, a climate crisis, or, how do I talk to my kid about racism? How do I talk to my kid about body positivity? All those things they're rooted in Christian values. They may not, you don't necessarily need a Christian book to have that conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned before, about your role at Beaming Books. I mean, are there any books from Beaming that you'd like to talk about as part of this?
Yeah. Okay. So a couple new books that we just published this spring that I'm excited about. Well, there's more than two, but these are the two that I have on my desk right now. So Sparrow's Prayer by Roger Hutchison, illustrated by Ag Jatkowska. This is just a wonderful story about a sparrow who he wakes up one morning and he can't figure out how to pray. The words get kind of stuck. And so he goes about his day and meets some other friends in the woods and asks them, how do you pray? And each one says, well, I don't pray with words. I pray with art, or I pray with movement, or I pray with generosity. And I think it really opens up this really great imagination for what prayer can be, which as a person of faith is really refreshing and exciting. And as a parent, I'm so excited to be able to tell my kids, like, you can pray in all kinds of ways. It's not just folding your hands, bowing your head, and saying words. That's one way, but there's lots of ways. So that's one I'm excited about. This one is called God is Just Like Me by Karen Valentin, illustrated by Antonietta Munoz Estrada. And it's about a Puerto Rican girl in New York City who is reflecting on the different qualities of God, in the world, and how they compare to her, and how, hey, we have a lot in common. God likes to be quiet, so do I. God likes to paint and make beautiful sunsets. Hey, God's creative just like me. So it's this wonderful story that expands the idea of what it means to be made in the image of God.
Excellent. Oh, those
Yeah.
are great books. And I'm hoping they're doing well.
Yeah, they are.
Good. Well, Naomi, thanks again so much for all the work that you do, affiliated with Raising Kids for Good or affiliated with Beaming Books and everything else that you've accomplished and contributed to. Greatly appreciate that. And as I said, please go to Naomi's website. Let me spell it for you. NaomiKrueger.com. Thanks so much, Naomi.
Thank you, Brian.